Hello, my Rosalynds and Rosikins. Mother is back. And in this episode of I Am Mother, I'm going to be talking about my love for FNAF and fucking Poppy Playtime. Okay, hear me out. I know, both of these horror video games, and, yeah, they have to do with children being tortured, killed, and turned into toys or animatronics. Okay, fine. I admit it. That's fucking twisted that I actually like these franchises despite the horrific backstory. But it's so interesting and haunting, and I get kind of like a deja vu when I listen to it, or nostalgia. I don't know why. I mean, I've never been killed and made into an animatronic or a goddamn toy for some little 5-year-old to play with. But the point is that I don't know. It reminds me of my childhood, and I don't know why it does this, but it does. So let me get into it. As you know, Five Nights at Freddy's is about a character named William Afton that is basically a killer, a psychotic, fucked up killer that targets children that come to his establishment, and he kills them and then stuffs them into some animatronic suits. Think of like a Chuck E. Cheese type of like atmosphere, right? And they end up dying, right? They're dead, and their souls haunt those suits, and then they're able to move the animatronics on their own because the animatronics are haunted. And then you think of Puppy Playtime, where they have an orphanage, and then they start experimenting on some of the orphans, turning them into toys to make the toys live forever, and basically so the children can't die, and for their own fucked up reasons why. So both of these scenarios, children's childhoods are being taken in order to comfort and be a staple for another child's childhood that's unaware of the pain that that toy or animatronic had to endure in order to be what they are to this day, right? And I can't help but think of also childhood stars that we grew up with, Drake Bell, um, who else? Drake Bell, Amanda Bynes. Let's see. Oh my god. What is her name? She's the one from Sam. Sam from iCarly. Um, oh my god, there's so many. There's so many actually, but I just can't think of them for right now. I don't know why, but you guys understand where I'm trying to go with this, right? And how a lot of the childhood stars, we have Miley Cyrus even. She went through that period. Um, where they literally gave us the childhood of our lives for us 90s slash 2000s kids, right? Because I was born in 1998. They gave us the time of our lives, right, when we were younger, and they sacrificed their childhood to be that thing for us, only to find out years later that they were actually exploited, sexually assaulted, silenced, abused, right? So I can't help but think of the parallels between our world when I'm looking at FNAF and I'm looking at Poppy Playtime. I know that it's impossible, to my knowledge anyway, for someone to kill a child and their soul haunt a suit. I know it's impossible for them to turn children into toys. At least right now it is. At this point, I don't know what the fuck to expect from humanity. Oh God, I'm gonna just keep it a buck with y'all, okay? I know ghosts are real. I know demons are real. I know all that stuff is real. So again, I don't know if they've discovered how to do shit like that yet, but I don't put it past them to figure out a way. Because in this type of beast system, a lot of times it's the children that are targeted, right? And they are harvested, their energy, their blood, all these different things are harvested for maleficent purposes, right? And vanity and a sexual perversion. So when I think of FNAF and the Puppy Playtime universes, I think of a world where children are not protected, where adults can twist the innocence of a child's childhood to make it something grotesque and something to control and use as a weapon, right? And the fact that these children are unprotected in each scenario, right? You're like, for FNAF, imagine you're at like Chuck E. Cheese, you're just playing around as a child, and the next thing you know, the mascot grabs you and takes you into a room and hides you and then kills you and stuffs you into another mascot suit, right? Or in the world of Puppy Playtime, imagine that you're an orphan and you think you're getting placed in a nice orphanage where people are going to love you because you don't have parents anymore, right? And they end up taking you and experimenting on you because you're smart and bright and they see something different in you, and they build your trust, and then they start turning you into something unrecognizable, right? And start messing around with your body parts and adapting them to a toy that isn't even human looking at all. Literally. Imagine what you're going to go through. Imagine the psychological fuckery that you're going to deal with as a child. You don't know why these adults are doing this to you, right? And so I'm infatuated with it, I think, because it reminds me of the parallels between our world. Like an innocent child just being taken and done to it whatever that adult feels like because they have the power and they know that child is defenseless and ignorant to the wickedness that they have in their heart. I can't help but think of the world that we live in today. And I can't help but think about the fact that nothing good can ever come from exploiting children. And when you exploit children, you anger their innocence, you anger the brightness in them, and it becomes dark. And then they turn into monsters, aka what happened with the animatronics and what happened to the Poppy Playtime um, toys. How the animatronics that were haunted now by, the children's spirits, they end up killing people because they're angry, as they should fucking be. And the Poppy Playtime toys, they literally had a whole entire fucking revolution and killed all the scientists, experimenters, and factory workers that worked inside of that orphanage Playtime co-factory. Um, and they killed them. And they end up turning to something unrecognizable where they started killing other toys that were, once human too, that wouldn't listen to their new rules. So in both scenarios, the innocence of a child ends up being turned into something very vile and wicked, and it's irreversible if I'm being completely honest. And you just hope that when these creatures die, they were once children, that they find peace, but you also are aware that some things they can never take back and that their souls are now tainted for eternity. And I know that's a lot of deep things to think about, but it really pairs in with the way the world is now. Growing up, you start to feel your innocence being taken, and even now more so than anything with the way that our society is structured and how we target children in the society to be an adult when they don't need to be, and how much pressure we put on the kids, how much knowledge we give them that it should be forbidden, right? That can, like help to preserve their childhood more if we just limited those things. But we put them in the front row and say, entertain us. We say, learn this, learn that, be this, be that, when all they should just be is kids. And I think that's also part of why I don't want children, because I can't. I know what I've went through, y'all. Okay, mother knows what she's went through throughout her childhood. I know how broken I've been. I know how I'm still recovering from some shit. I know how I felt my innocence being stripped the fuck away. I know all these different things. And you expect me to give that burden, that curse to an innocent soul? I can't do it. I won't do it. And it hurts and it sucks because children are seriously a blessing, you guys. But the way that this world is, they make having children a curse because only curses can follow an innocent soul in a world like this. Truly, you know? And so I just really think about these different horror video games and their universes and their lore. And I just can't help but to be slightly obsessed because for those of us whose childhood was everything it should be and everything it shouldn't be at the same time, you realize just how much you relate, right? To that hopelessness, to that part of you that wishes that in the scenario, if you went to a Five Nights at Freddy's or Chuck E. Cheese, that you went there and you came home. That you didn't go there and get kidnapped and then get fucking killed and turn into a fucking animatronic. Or in the Puppy Playtime series, as an orphan, right? You're hoping that you got adopted by good people that loved you and helped you to grow into a great adult that knows that you mattered. But instead, you got fucking turned into a fucking toy to be an enjoyment for other kids and to make money for that establishment and those adults. So they're basically pimping you out, pimping your childhood out. Okay, there you go, pimping your childhood out for gain, greed, and perversion. So again, a lot of the things that I feel like I'm drawn to, that I take joy in, that I really become obsessed with, that I analyze and think deeper about, I think it's because it strikes a chord of the reality of what we live in our world today. You know, art, creation, it's powerful. I'm a creator myself. So I totally understand. But when it comes down to things that show the darker side of childhood, I just can't help but to listen and to take it in because I relate to that shit heavy, right? And so with that, my Roslins and Roskins, tell me if you've heard about Five Nights at Freddy's or seen the movie or read the books, because I've done that, right? Or graphic novels or played the games. Tell me if you've seen Poppy Playtime, you've studied the lore and played the games. I know probably Playtime chapter 4 just came out, and I think they dropped the trailer for chapter 5, which is coming soon too, or that they're going to soon. But it's just a lot of things that these franchises can really like help you understand even about yourself when you start kind of piecing certain things together. When it comes down to creation and fantasy, you never want to take it so serious that you miss the parallels of what that fantasy world was built off of based of our own world. Because you always got to remember the authors, the creators, the writers, they are human like us. They're experiencing the same world we experience. And so based off of their experiences here in the world that we live in, they create a fantasy world based off of those things. And you got to like look deep into the lore to understand, like, oh my god, this reminds me of this reminds me of like child trafficking, this reminds me of like serial killers that target children, right? This reminds me of this reminds me of that. You just got to piece shit together. It's a big puzzle. And when you start creating the big picture I'm sorry, when you start creating the big picture, y'all, you start to see shit for what it is, and you're like, oh my god, oh, the truth is hidden in plain sight. Interesting. Like it's giving. So yeah. Okay, with that, I'm gonna say ciao.